Hi, my name is Maceo Lewis. Welcome to ML Sports Talk. Today I'm going to make the case as to why I believe that this World Series that we saw between the Dodgers and Blue Jays in 2025 was the greatest World Series, at least that I've ever seen. Now, I haven't watched that many World Series. The one that I can remember watching where I was like on the edge of my seat was the Cubs in Cleveland like a few years ago. So I remember because I was rooting for the Cubs because they hadn't won in like 100 years or so. But I don't remember too much about that series, and so that's kind of like why I'm making this video, so I can sort of like document like the key moments of this series. So when I go back and watch World Series in the future, if I see another great one, I'm like, okay, well, how does that compare to this? It's based on my own personal observations. So I want to start with a few points. One of the few points I want to make is that there were historical stakes in this series. There are a lot of advantage changes throughout this series. There are like key moments, some surprises, and just this series was littered with emotion. So let's start with the historical stakes. So the Dodgers are going for back-to-back World Championship wins. Now, historically, that doesn't happen a lot in baseball. The last time there was a back-to-back champion was the New York Yankees for the AL division, and for the NL division, it was the Reds in like the 70s. And even in the NL division, sorry, the AL division, the Blue Jays were the last times to go back to back before the Yankees. So you had the Dodgers who were going for back to back. They had just beat the Yankees last year, and then they're going to complete the back to back by beating the Blue Jays, who also went back to back. Okay, now what else was on the line was obviously the Blue Jays record, because when the Blue Jays went back to back, that was the first two times that they went to the World Series and won. So they were basically undefeated. So their undefeated record was on the line, and then the Dodgers going back to back was on the line. The Blue Jays had just played a Game Seven and won it against the Seattle in the ALCS. The Dodgers had just swept the Brewers. So historically, when that happens, when the team that goes Game Seven and the team sweeps meets in the World Series, the team that went to Game Seven in the previous series always will win the series. So that was on the line as well. So advantage changes. So Toronto had the home field advantage, having a slightly better record than the Dodgers this year. So they had the home field advantage. The Dodgers were basically favored every game this series. When I checked the odds, it was always Dodgers, Dodgers, Dodgers favored, at least according to Vegas. The only time that I saw the Blue Jays had a favorite was after Game 5 when they won Game 5. The future bet basically had Toronto as a favorite. And I remember I was looking at those odds. So I was like, I wonder if someone's betting on Toronto, they're going to be getting odds, or if they're still favoring the Dodgers. Well, when I looked online, the Blue Jays had the future bet after Game 5. Now, the Dodgers still were favored to win Game 6, and then after they won Game 6, the Dodgers were favored to win Game 7. But still, that's the only time where I saw that the Blue Jays had some kind of favorite in the betting. The Dodgers split the first two away games. Okay, so advantage went to Dodgers when they won Game 2. So as a Dodgers fan, I'm thinking like, okay, we got 3 home games. Now I knew realistically we weren't going to win every single home game. I still had that hope as a Dodger fan, but I was like, okay, well, we got Game 3. Okay, we're up 2-1, so still advantage Dodgers. Then the Toronto won Game 4. We split, so now it's like, okay. We didn't win every game, but let's just get Game 5, and then we have 2 shots at Toronto to win the World Series. But Toronto wins Game 5, so now it's like, okay, we're down, we're down 3-2 going into Toronto. 2 games that we both have to win, or we've lost this World Series. And you could see the dejected look on Dodger fans after Game 5. Play the clip. Like everybody's like all distraught, depressed, any negative emotion you could think of. That's the emotion I felt as a Dodger fan watching from my couch. Okay, but there was some hope, and the hope that we had was Yamamoto. And so with Yamamoto pitching in Game 6, and I was predicting, hey, look, he's going to pitch in Game 6 and he's going to close it out in Game 7. That's our shot at winning, and that's pretty much what happened. Okay, So now moments. Let's go back to game one. I mean, game one, that was a Blue Jay massacre of the Dodgers. Blue Jays beat us 11-4. There was the infamous sixth inning when the Toronto Blue Jays scored 9 runs in 1 inning in the sixth inning off our starting pitcher, Blake Snell. Yamamoto in game two pitched a complete game. That was a highlight of that game. The score was 5-1. And you can see how the Toronto Harriers, they're getting frustrated with him. He was throwing all kinds of splitters, curveballs, fastballs, you name it. Yamamoto was throwing it. They only got 1 run off of him in that entire game. Game three, that was the infamous 18-inning game, right? And you saw at that 18th inning, Yamamoto was ready to go. Even though he had just finished a complete game, he was ready to go. And that's going to be key going into game 6 and 7 later on. But Freeman finally hit a home run. And I say finally because Toronto was just dominating our hitters in terms of pitching. Freeman couldn't score. Ohtani, Smith, nobody. Toronto's pitching was great during this entire World Series. But Freeman finally hit a home run to win game three in the 18th inning. Game four, that was the one where Ohtani, he was tired from game three. So let's not forget that. He was tired from the night before because we didn't finish the game until before midnight, and we had to play the next day, and then Ohtani had to start both pitch and hit. Ohtani gives up 2 home runs to Guerrero in the 3rd inning, gave up 4 runs in the 7th inning. Blue Jays win 6-2. Game 5, that's the Snell game. That's his name. That's the game where the first 2 pitches, the Blue Jays hit home runs. The first one was from Snyder. Very first pitch, Snell gives up a home run to Snyder. Then Guerrero was at bat. The second pitch in that at bat, Guerrero hits a home run. Kike gave us some hope when he scored a home run, I believe it was in the 3rd inning. But then that was the last score that we ever had in that game. And then Snell gave up 3 more runs. Banda gave up another run, so the final score was 6-1. So that's game 5. Now, things weren't looking good for the Dodgers. But I said it and you could check my Twitter feed or my TikTok, whatever. I said, Yamamoto, he's our only hope. And he was our hope in game 6. 3rd inning was basically the deciding game for the Dodgers in game 6. Hold on, let me just check my time. Yeah, because I want to make sure this is under 15 minutes. So yeah, I'm at 8 minutes right now. Yamamoto, he was our he only gave up 1 run, but we got 3 runs in that 3rd inning. Yamamoto pitched 6 innings, and I understand why, because you definitely want to save him for game 7 at the closeout. So Sasaki, he actually did fine in the 8th inning, didn't give up any runs, but it was the 9th inning where things got a bit interesting. So Sasaki had Kirk with 2 outs, no balls, and then he hits him and walked. And so basically Kirk walks and he switches with another runner. And then this is the infamous wedge play, game 6, 9th inning, and where basically Toronto had 2 runners, 1 runner and then another runner who was hitting. And the ball goes out to the outfield, but instead of the ball hitting the wall and then coming back to play, which would have pretty much given Toronto at least one run, the ball wedged. So by rule, the players, it was a double play. So there was one player that ended up on 3rd, another who ended up on 2nd. And so then Glasgow comes in, hit, and then we get a pop out and a double play to end the 9th. So that was the end of game 6. Game 7, Ohtani starts. 3rd inning, Ohtani gives up a 3-run home run to Bichette, scores 3-0. I'm sitting there at the Dodgers fans like, oh no, here we go. All right. So we need to score. We need to at least tie, and obviously we need to take a lead heading into the 9th inning with Yamamoto. All right. So we get a couple of sacrifice plays in the 4th and 6th, makes it 3-2. Glass now gives up a run in the 6th, making it 4-2. And that was the last score that Toronto ever got in the game. 8th inning, Muncy hits a home run, 4-3. So we're going in the 9th inning. We're down 4-3. We need at least 1 run to tie. And if we don't get the tie, that's it. Dodgers are done. I believe it was 1 out when surprisingly Rojas hits a home run. Like who saw that coming? Rojas hits a home run, right? That was crucial because if Rojas had gotten out and then Otani was at bat and he hit a pop fly out, that would have been it for us Dodgers. But we got the home run. Otani hits a pop fly out, so the score's tied 4-4 going into the ninth inning, and then Yamamoto, he doesn't play the whole ninth inning, but he comes in towards the end, preserves the 4-4. 10th inning, no one scores. 11th inning, that's when Will Smith, who got jiggy with it, finally hits the home run off the Bieber, makes it 5-4, and of course Yamamoto closes it out for the win. So there was like so much surprises in this series. Let me start with the irony that the Dodgers, the weakness that they said about the Dodgers was that the bullpen was going to be our Achilles heel, right? But when you look at the runs that we gave up, they were almost all of them from our starting pitchers. Let's look at the games that we lost. Game 1, 4, and 5, okay? The 9-run score came off Blake Snell, our starter, okay? The game 4, the 6 runs came off Otani. In game 5, the 5 runs came off Snell, and then there was 1 run that came off of our bullpen Banda, right? So that's the games that we lost. And even the games that we won, I mean, look at game 2, 1 run off Yamamoto, 1 run off Yamamoto in game 6. Game 7, 3 runs off Otani and 1 run off Glasnow. So it was really our bullpen that gave up the runs. It was the starting pitchers who gave up most of the runs. Okay. Now, another surprising thing that happened was that home run by Schneider in game 5. I mean, come on, who would have thought that Schneider was going to hit a home run off the first pitch of the game off Snell? I mean, I didn't see that coming. I'm sure a lot of people didn't see that coming. And I don't even think Toronto fans saw that coming. But we raised Schneider with Rojas because that was a surprise too. When Rojas hit that home run in Game 7, ninth inning to tie it, that was a surprise too. And Rojas also made a good play in the bottom of the ninth because the bases were loaded. All Toronto needed was 1 run with bases loaded to win the game. And obviously, when bases are loaded, you got to throw the ball to home because if they score and it wasn't like 2 outs, it was like 1 out or I believe it was 0 outs or 1 out. You had to throw the ball to home. And sure enough, Rojas got the ball, threw it to home, and that it was so close. It kind of looked like Will Smith's foot barely touched the base when the runner came in. They had to do the replay. Obviously, we won the replay. But still, it was a very close game towards the end, and Rojas made a great play out there. So, look, my emotions were all over the place during this entire series. I was frustrated that our hitters couldn't hit against the pitchers. I mean, Toronto's pitchers pretty much outplayed our hitters for the most part during the entire series. Okay, when you're talking about Trey Savage, Scherzer, all their starting pitchers were doing great against us. And as a Dodger fan, I was dejected just like a lot of fans at the Game 5. You put up an image of a Dodger fan in Game 5. That was me, too. And then Game 7, we were down most of the game. Didn't even tie it until the 9th inning. And then we finally took the lead in the 11th inning. And that's, of course, when Yamamoto closes out. I mean, Blue Jays, they were in scoring position in the 9th inning and the 11th inning to obviously win the game. It could have gone either way. If they had gotten the hit off of Yamamoto, that would have been it. They were definitely in scoring position to take the lead and win, but we made that great double play, and that was it. World Series over. So look, that's my case for why this was the greatest World Series of all time. I'm just putting it out there. Obviously, this is all subjective, so you can have your own opinions or whatnot, but that's mine. So anyway, congratulations, Dodgers, back-to-back World Series champs. We did it. It was tough. Hats off to Toronto. No, I don't think Toronto choked. I mean, there was like a bunch of, weird plays that happened, like that wedge play. And then we made some great outfield plays to keep hope alive. And, it just came down to whether they could, get that 1 run off of Yamamoto, and they couldn't. And that's how we won the game. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this year's World Series. Go Dodgers.